Hey everybody. The gospel for this week is Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, and is the parable of the bags of gold. So again, it'll be like a man going on a journey who has called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went out on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one who had 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you have entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. You knew that I harvested where I have not sown and gathered where I have not yet scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So hello, good morning everybody. Thank you for welcoming me back to Sunfire. I always appreciate it so much. So just thank you again for allowing me to be here today. Just a quick question. Does anybody know what's coming up this week? I mean, it's kind of a silly question, right? Well, it might not be as silly as we think. I was in the office this week at work. I was just doing some paperwork together with my coworkers, and we were all, getting our own work done, but chit-chatting to make the day go by a little bit faster. And we were talking about our plans for next week. What everyone is doing, what everyone is going to be cooking for their friends and family, what everyone's yearly traditions were. I glanced over at one of my coworkers who had a really puzzled look on her face, but I didn't think anything of it, and we both continued in our conversations. Then a few moments later, her name is Katrina. She slightly raised her hand, and she shyly asked the group, she's like, now what's next week? And all of us in return just kind of took a step back for a second. We were just looking around, huh? And we found ourselves our own puzzled looks, and we gazed at one another with confusion. And I looked back at Katrina, whose face was now even more confused, what am I missing out on? And then all of a sudden, we all just began to crack up laughing. And she's like, what? What's going on? I'm just so confused. And one of my coworkers, in the nicest and sweetest way, she's like, Katrina, you do know Thanksgiving is on Thursday, right? And her reaction was just priceless. Instantly, her face just turned beet red, and she, did one of those numbers. And we all just busted up. We were just cracking up. She's like, oh my gosh, I have family coming over. I'm hosting Thanksgiving. She's like, my mom's coming, and she's going to critique all my cooking. I don't know what I'm going to make. I don't know who's bringing what. And she's like, I thought it was at the end of the month, and we're it's the end of the month. And then this poor woman. But we were, I was still laughing and just having a good time, and we all got back to work. But I think the reason it was so funny is because we all have been in that position before. We know what it's like to suddenly look at the calendar and realize everything that we've been planning so long for is suddenly here, and that we're in a frantic panic trying to pull things all together. So of course, the holiday that is coming up this week is Thanksgiving. It's a day that everybody loves, a day full of fellowship and family and friends and food, so much good food. And we're kind of taught to believe, with the tradition of Thanksgiving, that if you walk away from the table still hungry, that it's your own fault. Thanksgiving is loved by so many people that even a lot of people refer to Thanksgiving as their favorite holiday, even beating out Christmas and Easter. Or maybe that's just my friends because we're hungry college kids. There's something fun and exciting about Thanksgiving, getting together with those we love and embracing the moments we have together, being thankful and grateful the whole way through. So in all honesty, who is ready for Thanksgiving? Nobody is? Okay. I don't know why I raised my hand, because I'm not. And so I honestly thought more people would have raised their hands, so that just defeated these next few paragraphs. So we'll just skip over that. So I'm not ready for Thanksgiving, Katrina's not, and I don't think any of us really are. Because preparing for the holidays is tough. There's a lot to think about, like where are we going? Are we hosting the festivities? Do we even want to have any festivities? What are we going to do about those who aren't as blessed as we are? What about those who have never had a traditional Thanksgiving? What about everyone who might be spending this holiday and the entire holiday season alone? Are our hearts open to them, or are we simply straight focused, only worrying about our own needs and our own preparation? So just think about it for a moment. In this week's gospel, we hear a parable from Jesus. And on the first time listening, we might think it's about money, interpreting it as those who save and prepare accordingly will be given more. While that might be true, when we dive deeper into the text, we can see that the gospel actually takes a bit of a different turn than what we might have originally thought. In the parable, Jesus describes a story of a man going on a journey, giving his servants wealth according to their abilities. For the first gentleman, he gave him 5 bags of gold. The next was given 2 bags, and the following only 1 bag. And as we read, the man with 5 bags gained 5 more, the man with 2 gained 2 more, and the man with 1 bag was so afraid that he hid his bag of gold into the ground. And as we learn from this parable, the man with 1 bag of gold was given less than the others who hid his bag in the ground, away from any danger, away from any opportunity for growth, any opportunity to use his ability as he was given. That gentleman was thrown outside into the darkness. And it's a pretty powerful passage, because when we begin to look at it, in that deep meaning, each person was given opportunities based off their abilities, off of their talents. And when each gentleman used their talents for good, when they utilized their talents, they reaped what God was able to sow. God provided them with an opportunity to use their talents, and those who used the opportunity and used their abilities, they received more. One of the lessons we can take from this is based in asking ourselves, what are my talents? What is my bag of gold? What has God given to me according to my abilities? Maybe you're just like the band here, and you've been given an incredible musical talent and an incredible musical gift. Maybe that's what God has given to you, or maybe you have an incredible connection with the land. Maybe God has given you an ability to be the best caretaker of his land, producing the best crops for his people. Maybe that's your talent, maybe that's your ability, and maybe, too, your talent is being kind. Normally, when we think of talents, we think of something creative, like a creative talent, or a physical talent, like being good at sports, being good with your hands, like being a good word worker, a good welder, things like that. But I started to think about it a little bit more, and I think that talents can actually go way beyond those things, like that they can dive into deep places within our heart, into our emotions and into our feelings and into our minds with things that we might not think to be talents as first, like things like kindness. I find kindness to be a talent. I find generosity to be a talent. Is love a talent? Is acceptance a talent? Is respect, responsibility, joy, hope, faith, are all of those talents? And they absolutely are. These are things that God has given to us to use not only for him, but for his people in the places we are in our lives today. It's interesting to take a step back for a moment to really view everything as talents and connecting with that with a parable of the gospel for this week. Are we using those talents as God has intended? Are we utilizing them for his kingdom and his glory and all of his people, no matter who his people are? So I want to do an activity real fast. In front of you, if you have a bulletin or a piece of paper, or even if you want to do it in your head, I just want everybody to kind of think about or jot down a few talents that they have. And it could be anything. It could be something physical, it could be something more emotional, something that we haven't thought about as talents before. So if you want to go ahead and think about those. Some examples that I came up with for myself is that I think one of my talents is listening. I believe that I'm a good listener, especially when somebody has a concern, an issue, a feeling that they need to express, or something that they just need to talk about or talk to somebody with. I feel that one of the talents God has given me is that I can be with them in that moment, very present, engaging with them, listening non-judgmentally, just with the open heart, and with respect and just love for that person. I feel another one of my talents is my smile. God gave me the smile, and sometimes when I see people having a bad day, or when I'm having a bad day myself, I try to smile a little bit more, just to shine His light and His love a little bit more into the world than I might have been able to do before. So if anybody has been thinking about it, does anybody want to share? You don't have to. No pressure. So if we just keep thinking about those, it's just fascinating to think about the abilities that we have been given, no matter what context that they are in, thinking about them deeper than we normally would view them, going farther into our talents, deeper down into things that we might not have thought of as talents before. So as we approach Thanksgiving, and as the rest of the holiday season comes up right behind it, we know that it's going to fly by. Every year it does. One of the things that Grandma taught me when I was a young kid is that every year just gets faster and faster, and every year that I get a little bit older, it does. It just seems to fly right by. So with the holidays coming up, how are we going to use our talents? Are we going to put our talents behind us, putting them off to the side as we focus on having the perfect meal, having the perfect family time, the picture perfect holiday, even though all of us secretly know that picture perfect doesn't exist? Are we going to push our talents aside to make ourselves believe that everything is all right, that nobody in the world is hurting at this time, even when we're celebrating, and maybe even that we're not hurting ourselves? Are we going to use our talents to help in the way that God is directing us to? We can use our talents in millions and millions of different ways, and one of the beautiful things about that is that we might not know how to do that. And while it's scary, it's beautiful to think about. Because what that means is that God will put us in the right place at the right time, with the right person and the right tools and the right skill set that we need to use our talents right then and there for Him and His purpose and His people. And when we don't use our talents, like Jesus explained in the parable, we'll be in a place of darkness. And I think that darkness comes for two reasons. One, because we're not shining the light of God in the world. And then two, because we're not living up to our own potential, to the ways that we know that we can. And as a result, we find ourselves in a place of darkness. Thanksgiving is all about thankfulness and gratitude. And I like to think, and I'm a firm believer, that thankfulness and gratitude are talents that each and every one of us has. They are talents that God has given to us. He has given us a grateful heart, a grateful mind, a grateful body, a grateful spirit, all grateful for Him. Grateful for the people around us, grateful for this life that we live. And even though we might not think about it in that context at times, no matter what we're going through, life isn't necessarily the easiest thing. But in every moment, no matter how happy, no matter how sad, no matter how bright, no matter how dark things are, He has given us a grateful heart through each and every moment. So it's fun just to stop for a second to look around and appreciate everything that is around us. And as Thanksgiving approaches very fast, it's important to be thankful and to be grateful for God, for His people, for our lives, and not just on this Thursday, but on every single day of our lives. So in our heads, maybe we can think about that a little bit more, and maybe we can dig a little bit deeper. What are you grateful for that you take for granted? Some of my examples when I first asked myself this, what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for a mind that God allows to grow. I'm grateful for the idea of growth itself. I'm grateful that Jesus gave His life so that I may live one, and so that I can help others live theirs as well. I'm grateful for God for sending His Son, Jesus Christ, for all of us. I'm grateful for being here with each and every one of you. I'm grateful for my friends and my family. Every single person that's walked into my life, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for every experience, good or bad, because it brought me to this point right here. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am. I'm grateful for the wonderful memories I shared with my friend Joel before he passed away. And I'm grateful to have shared a beautiful life with him throughout all of his 22 years. Digging deeper, I'm grateful that my stomach is full. I'm grateful that I had some coffee this morning. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to drive here. I'm grateful that I can walk down the street without being judged. I'm grateful that if I have an opinion, I know that people will respect it and listen to it even if they don't agree. I'm grateful that I have freedom that not everybody has, and I take it for granted every single day. Not everyone can walk down the street and not be judged. Not everybody can express an opinion and not be ridiculed for it. Not everybody has freedom, but we have these things and we should be grateful. So as we continue to think about that gratitude, it's interesting to think about it in ways that we haven't thought of before, diving into that deeper place. So I've started my master's program. I'm studying psychology, and in my research, I've began to study positive psychology. And positive psychology is based on, according to recent research, based on two major things, hope and gratitude. And when I first realized that, I was like, man, why those two things? But as I thought about it more and more, they are two of the most powerful feelings that can lead to a positive life, a positive outlook, and positive outcomes, hope and gratitude. Having this time to reflect on gratitude really gives us a chance to open our minds to things that we take for granted and things that others don't have. And with the talents that God has given us, with the talents that He has given to all of us, our purpose as His children and as His light and as His kingdom is to do what we can so that others can feel grateful and feel gratitude, just like we do. So that someone else can walk down the street and feel safe who has never been able to do that before. Someone else can share their beliefs and know that they're still loved. Someone else can live free in Christ and free in themselves. In the parable, I think that's why the third gentleman was so reprimanded, because he wasn't using his abilities for God or His kingdom. He wasn't using his abilities for others so that others could be grateful. He was scared of them and he hid them, and nobody could be helped as a result. So with our talents and our abilities, it's our duty to use them for God and for His people, so that His light may continue to shine, His love may continue forevermore, that someone who has never felt grateful before can finally feel what it means to be grateful and can start a new life with God at the center of it. So I know most of us will spend this week getting ready for Thanksgiving. Maybe we've already had our Thanksgiving, maybe it's coming up. It might seem like we're running out of time, but we actually have all the time in the world, because we have our talents and we have our gifts and we have those blessings and these opportunities, and God has given us the opportunity to utilize them for Him and His people. And with opportunities like these, the ones that we might not even know exist yet, that time doesn't matter and time doesn't exist. So if we've been given the gift of kindness, God has given us the opportunity to be kind to His children. If we have been given the gift of empathy, feeling for somebody else, God has given us the opportunity to provide a happy holiday season to His children who might not have experienced a happy one before. No matter if it's sharing a meal with the homeless, serving a meal at a local shelter, donating extra to the church, giving your clothing and excess canned goods to area churches and community centers, or even writing holiday cards filled with kindness to maybe people serving in the military, parents and children who will be spending holidays in the hospitals, or elderly who might not be able to see their loved ones this year. If we have been given the gift of empathy, God has given us the opportunity to spread His love in ways that we've never been able to do before. If we have been given the gift of gratitude, we can use our grateful hearts to empower our actions, perhaps similar to those of kindness that I just described. So our gifts have been given to us, our talents and our abilities, they are all God-directed. So it's up to us what we're going to do with them. And we've been entrusted, not just now, not just around Thanksgiving, but all the time. So one final question is, what will we do with them? Thank you.